This is the GTN Show, and this week, I'm alone. But you need not worry, because I am a bit of a triathlon fanatic, so we're not going to be short of things to chat about today. And coming up on the show, we have some new tech releases, we have some race results, we have a near miss with one of the pros out training on the bike, and we're going to be discussing whether or not triathletes could compete with some of the world's best cyclists. So as triathletes, we're often called a jack of all trades. I know, it boils my blood when I hear that. And you know what? I'm fed up with putting up with that. I mean, how much truth is there to it? And I get it, I understand. They think the only reason that we do 3 sports is simply because we can't do one well enough. But I think we need to look into this further. I mean, take a look at some of the top professionals in the sport. They can run sub 30-minute 10Ks off the bike in some cases. That sounds like world-class running to me. And I know that in Great Britain, we actually have many triathletes representing our country for running. And if you take Alistair Brownlee, for instance, he could potentially qualify for the Commonwealth Games, maybe even the Olympics, if he was to put his focus on running. I mean, that doesn't sound like a jack of all trades to me. And whilst we're on the subject of Alistair Brownlee, rumour has it Team Sky did mention the idea of Alistair joining the team, or at least trialling for the team should he want to. But then maybe Alistair is just an exceptional athlete. I mean, I think swimming is a really tough one to compare. I don't think triathlon swimming directly relates or compares to swimming in the pool. I've swum against some top level swimmers that I wouldn't come close to in the swimming pool, but then I've beaten them open water. But on the cycling front, I think we need to take a look into this further. So for that, I'm going to bring in our friends from Global Cycling Network. Oh, hey Matt. Well, thanks for joining us.
No worries.
We've just been talking about triathletes being a jack of all trades, and we're wondering, as triathletes, could we actually compete with some of the world's best cyclists?
It's a really, really good question, because quite clearly you have to be very, very good at 3 different disciplines. And in cycling, or in swimming or in running, you've got to be very good at one. So you have to ask yourself, can you excel at everything? I think in terms of physiologically, in terms of an engine, I think triathletes would easily match some of the best road riders in the world. But the demands of a road race are very different than that in a triathlon.
Which I guess is like we've got a few sort of disciplines or areas in triathlon. We've got the draft league or non-draft league. So ITU races maybe might transfer over to cycling a little bit better.
Yeah, well, they will mimic classic road race scenarios. I mean, the classic one is, of course, in non-ITU, you're kind of just riding essentially a very, very long time trial. Yeah. So it's kind of a very linear effort, a hard effort, but a linear one, almost like a diesel-powered effort.
We've talked about the powers that some of them are putting out, like Lionel Sanders. Everyone knows he came second at the Ironman World Champs, and he talks about doing a 2-hour effort in a half Ironman at 370 watts. And I mean, he's swum before. He's doing a 1:11 half marathon off the bike as well. I mean, that's unbelievable.
I think when you look at the FTPs of some of the world's best road cyclists, that would be well in the ballpark of being world class. But where the difference lies, he becomes very good at riding for 2 hours at 370, but could he then ride at 800 watts for a minute within that on several occasions, but for longer periods of time? So although it's clearly very, very impressive, the world of road cycling is completely different. I mean, one of the best comparisons I can give you, when I was a professional back in 2000, we had one of the world's finest triathletes, Spencer Smith, who was a world champion, British champion, and he wanted to be a pro road rider. Going out training with him on long training rides was a nightmare. He sat on the front with Spencer Smith. I mean, we were just swapping turns trying to ride on the front. But then when it came to racing, God bless him, he just had he had a lot of problems in terms of the pace change, riding in the crosswinds, riding within a big bunch, riding on the wheel, but moving up and down a peloton of 200 riders. And then, of course, adapting to those really intense speed changes and pace changes on climbs. That's where he kind of struggled. But there was no doubting, as a physiological specimen, he was mightily impressive and had a big engine. But of course, it was used in a very different way than the demands of a normal road race.
That's very interesting. Well, thanks very much, Matt.
No worries.
Now for the news, and our 2016 Ironman World Champion Jan Frodeno had a close run-in with a truck whilst he's out on a training ride. He recalls the incident as the truck approaching from his left-hand side but then just ran the stop sign, narrowly missing Jan by just 1 or 2 centimeters. And then apparently the driver had the cheek to wind down the window and yell abuse at Jan for wearing lycra. Now, as a result, it's left Jan training indoors for the sake of his family. But one person that it did touch was his wife, Emma Snowsill, who is a former Olympic champion. Now, a number of years ago, she actually lost her then boyfriend, Luke Harrop, to a bike and car crash. And obviously, she was concerned in this incident that she could have lost her husband. Now, sadly, this is becoming a regular occurrence between drivers and cyclists. So they've suggested that anyone wanting a driver's license should have to ride on the road beforehand. Not a bad idea if you ask me. Moving on, the European Triathlon Union has announced that it's awarded the European Triathlon Long Distance Champs to Madrid. Now, it takes place on the 23rd of September, and it actually follows the same course as Challenge Madrid. So it starts with a 3.8k swim, 180k bike through the Sierra Madrilena, and then it ends with a marathon finishing in Puerto del Sol. Now, moving on, we've heard that Helen Jenkins, the 2008 and 2011 ITU World Champion, has had to have a back fusion surgery. In August last year, she gave birth to her child Marley, and she was hoping to return to racing this year with WTS Leeds. But unfortunately, in training, she started to experience some spasms in her back. And it turns out it's actually crushing the nerves in her back that was causing this issue. So she's had to have a back fusion surgery, and I believe that she's got to have another operation either this week or the following week. Now, she's still hoping to return for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, and hopefully these operations will help towards that. So we're really sorry to hear this news, Helen, but we hope you recover as soon as possible. Moving on to some tech news, and if you were watching the Tour Down Under over the weekend, you may have noticed a new lid on some of the heads of Team Sky. It was in fact a new Aero Road helmet from our friends at Kask. It's the Utopia. It weighs in at 235 grams in a medium. It's being designed in conjunction with Team Sky. And Kask actually claimed that the Utopia could save you 6 watts when riding at 50 kilometers per hour versus its nearest competitor, which is pretty impressive. Now, aerodynamics are really important in this helmet, but as is the ventilation. So it's actually got some really well designed and placed vents, which is shouting out Kona to me. With some of these extreme conditions that events are taking place in, like the Ironman World Champs in Kona, people will often opt for an Aero Road helmet over a TT helmet because they want more ventilation. So it will be interesting to see how many people will be wearing the Utopia 2018 Ironman World Champs. Now for the race news, and we actually have some this week. We've actually been tracking Lionel Sanders since October, where he came second at the Ironman World Champs. He then went on to win the Ironman Arizona race by a whopping 13.5 minutes. And then this weekend, he was back for Ironman 70.3 Pucon. He came out of the water 1 minute 40 behind previous ex-Terra World Champ Mauricio Mendes. So his swim is improving. They've got to watch out with that. It didn't take him long to pass by the leaders, and he came off the bike with a 2:01 bike split, 12 minutes quicker than any of the chasers. And whilst Lionel didn't have the fastest run of the day, Mauricio Mendes did, he still had enough of a gap to take the win. Mendes in second, and then in third it was Felipe Barraza. And then on the women's side, it was a close race between Barbara Riveros and Ellie Salthouse. They were neck and neck through the swim and the bike, and then the 3-time Olympian pulled away on the run with a 1:21 run split to take the win. In second, it was Ellie Salthouse, and in third, it was Valentina Carvalho. Now over to the Canary Islands for the Lanzarote International Duathlon. Now, it may not sound like the biggest event on the planet, but it does get some big names. Lanzarote is a top destination choice for many of the pros at this time of year. So some of them like to use it as a bit of a winter hit out. I actually did a number of years ago. It's just a sprint distance duathlon, a 5k run, 20k bike, followed by a 2.5k run. So it's super fast. This year it was actually opened and started by the Ironman World Champion Patrick Lang and previous Ironman World Champion Luc van Leert. And the race was actually won on the men's side by Kenneth van der Rijske, who actually had a scorching first run. It was a low 15 minute, I think it was 15:07 for 5k, which is pretty impressive. And then on the women's side, it was dominated by Anne Haug, who powered away on the bike to take the win overall. Now for the caption competition, and last week we had a photo of a chap grabbing a water bottle and the water spraying in the air. It's quite funny. Quite a few people alluding to the fact that his name was Thorpe. He's a swimmer. I hate to say he's from the wrong country. He's from New Zealand rather than Australia, but I do like it. So here's a few good ones that I picked out. Costas Claudius said, "I am so excited and I just can't hide it." James Carroll said, "When you're on the run and missing the swim." James Dack said, "Smash it," they said. But the winner of this week for the cap was Mr. GQ 1979. He said, "Hey mate, did you hear that Patrick Lang is behind you?" Like it. So Mr. GQ 1979, you are the winner of the GTN swimming cap. Just get in touch over Facebook to claim it. But for this week's caption competition, we have another photo of Heather and Mark. And just to explain this, if you're a bit confused what's going on here, no, the photo isn't upside down. They are actually upside down. It took me a while to figure it out. They're lying upside down on the road with their bikes above them. We'd love to hear your captions. Drop them in the comments section below. Now for the weekly poll, and last week we asked you, what is the toughest multi-sport event in the triathlon world? We gave the options of other, aquathlon, duathlon, and triathlon. Now I voted duathlon. I think going from run to bike to run and loading up your legs for the whole event is just brutal. That last run just feels disgusting. But it'd be really interesting to see what the results say. In fourth place, it was other with 8%. In third place, it was aquathlon with 9%. In second place, it was duathlon with 35%. And in first place, it was triathlon with 46%. Pretty close. Bit disappointing duathlon didn't win there, but I have someone else on my side. Paul K said, "Everybody says triathlon is harder than duathlon. Never did a duathlon." Got to agree there. And we also had some suggestions in for other people saying cross triathlon or epic long distance events such as ultra Ironmans. Someone actually saying they've never done a swim run, but they think that looks really tough, and I can vouch for that, it is. But I did think this one was really funny. Tim said, "Olympic distance triathlon is the toughest. It's longer than a sprint, but still requires that you're in the red for most of the race. There's a reason that Alistair Brownlee is retiring to Ironman." It's very funny. Well, for this week's poll, I thought it'd be really interesting. With us launching our series of how to train for your first triathlon, how to choose your first triathlon, it'd be really interesting to see actually, what was your first triathlon? Was it a sprint distance? Was it an Olympic distance? Was it a middle distance 70.3 event? Or was it a full distance Ironman event? And you can enter that poll by clicking on the link in the corner here. And actually, it'd be really interesting to hear what your first event was and how it went. You can drop that in the comments below. I can tell you mine didn't go very smooth, but we'd love to read your stories. Now for the GTN Tribe, where we pop your club on the GTN map. And this week we have Team Tri-Energy. It's sent in by Elaine Young, and this club's actually from Singapore. They've actually given us a few stats to read out, a few pointers. They said that the club was started a few years ago by 2 couples, and it's grown now to over 20 members. They have an equal representation of men and women in the group, mostly because they're made up of tri-couples, which is very cool. A few stats here. They said that they did 28 Ironmans between them in 2017. They swam over 380,000 meters, they biked over 90,000 kilometers, and they ran over 16,000 kilometers. In 2017, they also had multiple half Ironman World Championship qualifiers and 1 Kona qualifier, so congratulations for that. They're also made up of 4 different countries: Singapore, Canada, Hong Kong, and Australia. And then finally, I really like this one. They said, "We all suffer from FOMO, fear of missing out." So that's what drives them to train harder and also play harder. But yeah, we love this. We love seeing what you're up to and what your clubs are doing. So please keep sending in your photos and things about your clubs using the hashtag GTN Tribe over Twitter and over Facebook. Now for the GTN Pain Cave, where all your hard training takes place. So to start things off, we have one here from Scott Wiseman. He sent it in over Facebook, and this is next level Scott. He's got his Cervelo TT bike set up on his Tax Turbo trainer, and then he's got, is that 6 bikes up on the wall? He's got all his kit organised into boxes. Looks like it's got like a TRX for gym sort of training stuff. But most of all, just the space. I wish I had that. That's very cool. Moving on, we have one from Caroline van der Mel sent in over Facebook, and this is very smart. They've got their Wahoo kicker set up with their Fonderized road bike set up on it, and it looks like they're on Zwift. They've got their laptop on a little platform in front of them. They've got a spinning bike set up beside them, and then looks like they've also got a little bit of a gym setup as well. But very smart, very clean. I like that. John Jackie Vinson has sent in his Specialized TT bike. And this is the Specialized Transition. This is actually my first ever TT bike, so I do like this. And you've got it set up on their turbo. It looks like they've got a Zwift set up on their laptop and their TV in front of them. They've got their foam roller tucked away, and they're clearly got their weight scales out because they're trying to get themselves down to race weight or something. Very cool. And then finally, something a little bit different, and this was actually sent to me over Instagram. Try Tobias from Denmark said, for a little bit of inspiration, and I'm not so sure I'd call this inspiration, but apparently it keeps him going through his Zwift sessions. He's got his Canyon TT bike set up on the turbo. He's got GTN on the TV screen, but he's also got a picture of me in front of him saying, "Go faster." Definitely wouldn't motivate me, but if it does for you, Tobias, that's cool. So yeah, we love it. Keep sending in your turbos and your Pain Cave photos using the hashtag GTN Pain Cave over Twitter and Facebook. Well, that's it for the GTN show for this week, and hopefully I'll be back with Heather next week. But if you like this show, hit that thumbs up button. And if you haven't done so already, you can actually subscribe to GTN so you never miss another video from us. So you can do that by clicking on the globe. And as I said earlier in the show, we're going to be bringing out a series of training videos for your first triathlon. So if that is you, if you are either choosing your first triathlon, you can see a video on how to choose your first triathlon by clicking down here. And then how to train for your first triathlon, you can see those videos by clicking down here.